Crisis Core Reunion released, and this was one of the most anticipated games to get a remaster. And with this game being more of a remake than a remaster, me as a new fan, I was super excited to dive into it, see how the combat system differs from Final Fantasy VII Remake, and what the story entails, as everyone hails it as one of the best Final Fantasy stories. Keeping in mind the limitations of the PSP, I still went into this game as it just being a new Final Fantasy game. Not a brand new release, but an original Final Fantasy story and game that I've never played before. Clocking in at 30 hours on a hard mode run, I now have completed almost everything there is to do in the game, and I'm going to tell you what I thought of it all. The story actually starts out pretty simple. He plays a young dude named Zack Fair. He's part of an organization called Soldier, and his main goal is to become a hero. He tries his best. He's always way too upbeat for some of the situations he's in. He's got really cool hair. But it mainly starts out with them being dispatched to a place called Wutai to help with the war efforts. This game is set 7 years before Final Fantasy VII, acting as a prequel. What I was most interested in was the combat system, to see what they did to upgrade it from the PSP version, as well as see how it differentiates itself from Final Fantasy VII Remake, as the Reunion title puts it under the same universe. It's almost like they're making it a big new trilogy. I was literally shocked when I started swinging the sword with Zack. Now, this game is nothing like Final Fantasy VII Remake in terms of gameplay. I thought they were going to make some additions to make it more like 7 Remake, but no, it was all to smooth and iron out the combat, and it is fantastic. This game's combat is completely based on reactionary gameplay, where the dodge is really snappy and has iframes, the blocking mitigates a lot of damage, you have a dash ability to make Zack run around the map and avoid damage. Every time you cast a spell during a combo, he does a backstep, which also gives him iframes to avoid damage. And when you use abilities like jump or other ones, you have iframes as well to avoid damage, letting you continuously keep combos going using abilities while avoiding all damage from the enemies. Zack is fast as hell and every move hits really hard. They made the combat system feel so good. The particle effects look great. The animation quality is fantastic. I love the combat in this game. I was absolutely shocked. Not to say Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat is bad, but they're just completely different. I wasn't expecting a combat system completely based on learning the enemy's movements and dodging and stuff like that. You could actually do a lot of no damage runs in Crisis Core, and they even give you some added benefits if you do no damage on the little battles. 7 Remake acts as a more classic RPG where you want to use some turn-based elements and you're going to get hit. You're trying to mitigate damage. You're a lot slower. Crisis Core, though, you are literally a crackhead. You want to do as much damage as you possibly can, upgrade your materia, mix and match it. Kind of reminds me of the commands from Birth by Sleep, where you would mix and match those, which is funny because Birth by Sleep and Crisis Core both released on the PSP. They are probably doing the same thing, throwing out ideas. I really enjoyed the enemy and boss design too. Now, some enemies pissed me off when they would just bite me and I would die from the death status ailment, but the bosses were really good. They would have like 4 to 7 moves you would have to learn, each of them requiring good reaction time. I especially loved when you're fighting Bahamut in the beginning, and he's got that move where he flies up in the air, comes down at you, and you got 2 cues. You could either listen in for the sound to dodge it, or you look at his shadow. I think that is so creative. Another thing I enjoyed is there's a lot of missions in this game. You're going to be doing side quests for most of your runtime. Now, the thing is, you will be really weak if you're not doing these side quests, which I actually like. I hate when you do a bunch of side quests and you're overpowered and you just fly through the story missions, but not in this game. You could do 45 side missions, be really strong, go into the next story quest, and the boss will give you a run for your money, on hard mode at least. That was really cool to me and made the whole experience enjoyable and felt like stakes were on the line for every boss fight. I also enjoyed the little details in gameplay. Funny stuff like being able to avoid all encounters if you just hug the edge of every area. NPCs and side quests being hidden behind chapters and little secrets and mini games being hidden. That stuff is really cool and you don't really see that in JRPGs nowadays too much. I really loved the lady on the entrance that would make you drink this conspicuous liquid and it gives you basically a Phoenix down. If you don't know that, you're welcome. Some of the later abilities and materia you get are so cool to watch pull off. Eye candy all around. You could say I really enjoyed this combat system. It was actually one of my favorite combat systems this year for JRPGs and action RPGs. Zack, you got some moves, my guy. That was a good job on them making a game where you're playing as one character the entire time. Pretty damn fun, balanced, and super snappy feeling. The story pacing might have been one of my biggest issues, but it's hard to fault it because it was on a PSP. I just wish there was a bit more girth in some of the story missions, some bit more areas to explore. It felt like the final boss came way too soon. Characters like Zack, Angeal, Cisnail, Sephiroth, they all had character development though, and it was a joy to watch the story play out. Stakes were always on the line, especially because there was only a limited amount of story quests, so they had to make them interesting each time. I don't think the villains were as great as they could have been, especially Genesis. He didn't have the character development I was hoping for, but it wasn't the biggest deal in the world. I was still entertained by him, especially his weird rants he would go on. Now, the real star here is Zack Fair, obviously. Now, we've seen his personality before, outgoing, wants to be a hero, doesn't give up, but the way he stays goofy and tries to make light of tough situations while taking certain things seriously, I really enjoyed. Something about this dude's facial expressions, his body language, he's just really likable. He's someone you want to give a hug to. After about 10 hours, Zack was someone in real life I could have trusted. He's a super cool character, has a plenty of style, and now the voice actor, some parts he hit, some parts he missed. Thank God I didn't have the old voice actor stuck in my heart from the old game, so I was new to this and it wasn't as terrible as some other people are saying. I thought the parts that needed to be performed well, he performed. But he did have this nasally sound some of the times, and I was just like, ugh.
What the hell did you do, Angeal?
Oh. He would teeter on the edge of heroic and whiny sometimes, which I didn't really like, but that was few and far between, and the majority of the time I loved the voice acting. This video will not contain spoilers, but the ending sequence of this game, the entire portion of gameplay and story was just absolutely outrageous, one of the craziest things I've seen in a JRPG, and it hit me emotionally. You probably hear a lot of people say that, and I was waiting for that. I was going to see if it was going to hit as hard as the hype was saying, and it pretty much did. There were a few things that let me down that I will go into a spoiler video, but the ending sequence of this game is just extraordinary. Definitely stayed on my mind for a few days, and it actually made me appreciate the 7 remake a bit more. I kind of want to go play it right now. I also loved the way they did Cloud in this game. He's just younger and way more scared of everything. I don't know, he looks like a little chihuahua at times, and it just is cool to see that because in 7 remake, he's moody, he's tough, he has no emotion, so to see him like friendly, a little anxious, and then we got homie Sephiroth over here. Man, that was interesting watching Sephiroth be like a friend, even a mentor. That was super interesting. Seeing all these Final Fantasy VII characters younger and just in the past with their personalities was really fun. I was playing this game on the PS5 and it ran beautifully. It basically holds a 4K resolution and a 60 FPS at all times. Now, the options were actually pretty nice too. They give you a lot of options for your camera, which I appreciate as an action RPG enjoyer. I think the graphical upgrades they did are really nice. Very few and far between. Their hair and face looks a little clay-like. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a little stiff, but most of the time it looks fantastic, and I do find it a little weird they kept the old CGI. Now, I like it because in that era, I loved the Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 CG, the Square Enix CG of that era, but it is still a little lazy in that sense. Other things though, like particle effects and the lighting, I thought they did absolutely fantastic. Overall, I completely enjoyed my experience with Crisis Core with very few nitpicks. I honestly just wish it was longer. Now, thank God they have a really nice New Game Plus mode, which I am definitely going to dive into. I'm going to go for the Platinum, and when I do that, that means I really enjoyed a JRPG. The $50 price tag, US dollars, is really appreciated for this, and I feel like I got a really big bang for my buck. As an action RPG enjoyer, I have hours of endless content in this game to challenge myself with bosses, redo the final boss, max out Zack. It's a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and a new fan's perspective and review of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Honestly, I feel like they could have shortened that name a little bit. Crisis Core Reunion flows a lot better for me. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Like always, again, if you love JRPG content, make sure to subscribe as there'll be plenty new JRPG videos and reviews coming out. I hope you guys have the best rest of your day or night, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.